2018 was the year of Strengthening Home, and what a year it was. Who could ever forget Strengthen Home Sunday? Seeing so many people come up and respond, signing up to volunteer on team, being a part of family, and being a part of community. And that's what we spent the year doing, creating value for family, creating value for community, communicating clear vision, identity, and direction that would allow us to come together and run together.
Looking back, it's been amazing to see all that God did in and through us, as greater strength was built into our home here at Dayspring.
It was right here in this very spot that Kristen and I introduced the focus and vision for last year. And this year, as we look forward to all that is ahead, building on the back of last year's growth and momentum, we again look forward to sharing with you the vision, the focus and direction that God has placed upon our heart.
This year, we've felt God calling us a little deeper, us personally, and we feel for us as a community. Last year, we allowed God to create in us a value for showing up and plugging in. This year, we feel He's really wanting to build on how we are showing up. We can have a community of people show up and be a part of something by name, but God is wanting a community of people who are united in heart.
The focus this year is very much a continuation of Strengthening Home. The focus remains on the people who call Dayspring home and the people who will call Dayspring home, because at the end of the day, the potential of Dayspring doesn't lie with what we are doing, the programs, the different ministries. It lies with the people we are empowering. We are not going to become stronger because of what we do. We are going to become stronger because of the people we are building.
Our church has a well-known history of hosting His presence well, as being a place of powerful encounter where the gifts of the Spirit are seen working in power. But we know there is a greater measure to be seen. That's something that we are all invited into to contend for. We have such an expectation for what God is going to do this year and what He's wanting to do this year. But as strong as we feel this message is, it is nothing without the people that are called to carry and release it, and that's you.
What a privilege it is to be counted amongst the family of God, to lend our strength and to play a part in seeing revival spread across our city, our nation, and beyond. Joel, Russell, here we are, Vision Sunday 2019, and today we introduce our vision and our focus for the year. But for us, it's really been a conversation that we've been having over the last 4 months, and it started with a realization that Strengthening Home wasn't finished, that this year was to be a continuation of that theme and vision from last year. And Russell, I remember as we started having the conversation, we got together, you were kind of in 1 Peter 2 or something stewing on your heart, and you shared that, and it sparked something off in all of us. We knew that God was on that, and that was part of the direction for the year. So why don't you share a little bit?
So 1 Peter 2 talks about a royal priesthood, and 3 things I get out of that, and one of the main ones is inclusion. You know, as children of God, every single one of us are included as part of that priesthood. We're invited in to that place of intimacy. The other thing for me too, and that is, as priests, we have a responsibility to step up, to give ourselves, you know, as Paul says in Romans 12, to present ourselves daily as a living sacrifice, giving ourselves an opportunity to interface with God, to serve Him and to worship.
And I remember that day when we were discussing this and you had shared all that with us. We all, it was around then that we decided that Strengthening Home wasn't finished and that this year would be about building a people. And we talked about the kind of people who are, you know, united in heart, knitted together, are people who can walk in humility with one another, showing mercy, forgiveness, and of course love.
You know, the analogy in 1 Peter 2 doesn't talk about building a machine, it talks about building a house with living stones. You know, like God gave me this picture of this wall of a stone building. It wasn't made up of uniform bricks, it was made from all these disparate stones that were different shapes and sizes. And they were put together to create this environment for connection with God and each other. And obviously I'm not talking about, you know, the physical church building. It's the space that we create together to facilitate that connection with God and each other.
So that whole picture of coming together and you know, this incredible thing that happens when you grab a bunch of people, when they're drawn together by the Spirit of God, something unique happens, something comes out of us that we didn't even know was there before because of the connection that we have together.
And I love how that picture that you painted of different, not uniform, like all shapes and sizes. I love that because we're not all the same, and together we're stronger.
You know, speaking about offering spiritual sacrifices, our role as priests is offering spiritual sacrifices, which to me talks a lot about worship and recognizing that God is doing something in our worship at the moment, something new, something fresh. And Russell, you've got a great perspective on that. And I know a lot of the revelation that you've had has added to who we are and how we worship as a community.
That's right. Just the importance of everybody understanding that they are a priest, and we need them. We need everybody to contribute, everybody to step forward, everyone to identify themselves as instrumental, a really important brick in this living building, to be able to bring their act of worship, their act of sacrifice to God. Whenever we meet, everybody is required, everyone is invited, everybody is empowered to minister to God and to minister to one another.
And I don't think you can neglect the fact that sometimes we don't feel like it, you know, coming together and bringing a sacrifice. I mean, with something sacrificial, it's cost you something. So whether it's worship, and you know, that's costly, and even, you know, working together as community, being different sized bricks fitting together for a common purpose, that's not always easily that's costly, but it's sacrificial, and that's worship, and that attracts the anointing. God can't help but move toward us, I think, when we're a community, you know, to stepping over that line and sacrificing and worshiping in that way.
It requires a certain level of vulnerability too. I think something that we've been talking about, and it's about being vulnerable with one another, being real with one another, and being real before God.
Isn't it great that we don't have to have all our everything in order, all our life in order to be called into priestly duty? It requires just an obedient, willing heart that says, no matter what I've been through, I'm going to step in now, and this is my act of spiritual worship. This is my responsibility to come before the Lord, regardless of the week I've had.
So let me just read from Isaiah 43. It says this: "Forget the former things and stop dwelling on the past. I am doing something brand new, something unheard of. Even now it sprouts and grows and matures. Don't you perceive it? I will make a way in the wilderness and open up flowing streams in the desert."
It's a new year, and God is doing something brand new. And, you know, we don't want to make the mistake of building a structure and asking God to fill it. I think it's our great friend Paul Waring that says that. We want to look at what God is doing, get a glimpse into where He's at, focus in on what the Father is saying and what the Father is doing, and build structure around that. And so that's a big part of what this year is all about. Building a people that can see and carry the new thing. Build a people that can understand, that can see into the future, to what God has called for us and set aside for us, and run with it. Run with passion, run together. You know, it's not a solo race, it's not an individual race, it's something that we get to do as a family, and which makes it so much more beautiful along the way. What a great journey it is to do it side by side with people that God has called us to do life with. We are building a people that would create and carry the kind of culture that will move us into the next season.